I saw a light shining through my window. I saw a fire burning through the night. It warmed my heart, shining there upon me. It was the fire of everlasting light.
I saw a light shining through my window. I saw a fire burning through the night. It warmed my heart, shining there upon me. It was the fire of everlasting light. And as we watch, the flame is drawing nearer to light our way, to guide us from above. It is the flame of hope that shines upon us. It is the light of everlasting love.
Come on. Come on, come on. Clear up the field, come on.
On 80,000 mag, that's about it.
Go on, baby, multiply and replenish the earth. Oh, Casimir. That little devil with his little sticky-ended DNA is going to get me a second Nobel Prize. Oh, yes. Combine an E. coli plasmid with a mouse tumor gene, and we've got a Jim Dandy little bugger that's going to give us a line on what happens in a cancer cell. Came to me in the shower. I was soaping my groin at the time. You think there's a connection between sex and scientific genius?
So, want to go over the log? First we had Echo R1 restriction enzyme, TTTA sequence, viral DNA in 14 fragments with BAM H1.
I figure we're 6 months ahead of that sleazy rat in Los Angeles. Trying to hold back on me in his new K12 bacterial strain.
Don't worry. I'm sure Professor Klein will publish his data in the next proceedings.
Well, if he thinks he can beat me out, he won't. You know, he tried to ace me out of a research fellowship at Cold Spring Harbor. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Take this down. Dr. Samuel Klein, Ph.D., Crocker Memorial Lab, California. Find out the address. Dear Sam, you sleazy, sneaky witch doctor. If you hold out on me on your new K12 bacterial strain, I will splice your DNA to the nearest E. coli and produce the first sewage-eating molecular geneticist. You got that?
No.
Damn it, Casimir, that is deathless prose.
Dr. Henderson, excuse me. I am not the departmental secretary.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Give a woman a Ph.D. and she acts like she's had a hysterectomy.
I hesitate to lecture Nobel laureate on physiology. However, secretarial skills are not genetically coded as primary sexual characteristics.
Oh, come on, Casimir.
Louise?
Louise,
Thank you.
you've done letters for me before.
I know. Look, you don't have time. You've got to go home and change.
What for?
The dinner and reception at President Dobie's.
Oh, forget that. Just get that letter done.
The reception is to celebrate the grant from Washington to build the new wing for your laboratory.
Oh.
Yeah, I think our President Dobie might be a little exercised if you neglected to attend.
All right, all right. You can drop me off at my place.
Did you ever think about learning how to drive?
What for? There's always somebody going my way. You gonna wear that?
No, I brought a dress. I'll change in the ladies' room before we leave.
Oh, no, you won't. I'm not gonna wait for you. You can change at my place.
No, I think I'd really rather change here if you don't mind.
What the hell are you doing?
What?
What did you just pour down the sink? We didn't kill that batch. That's great, Casimir. Where'd you learn your lab technique? In a car wash? You are aware, Doctor, we're working with E. coli, a bacterium that lives in the gut of damn near every creature on Earth. And even in refined and genteel lady researchers, they excrete a couple million every day.
I'm sorry, all right, it was an accident.
No, I know you're sorry. But did it ever occur to you that this sink is connected to the general sewerage system of this delightful but excretory city?
It was the 432 batch, I think.
And what you just poured down that drain is having a wonderful time exchanging genetic information with all its friends and relatives. All
right, all right. I think I put it there before the last batch.
What you pour down the sink today, dear heart, you get back 6 months from now in Harry's clam house on the half shell.
Okay, here it is, 343. It was the K12 weakened strain. Remember, we did the gene splice, but we discarded it because of possible airborne contamination. Well, I guess I should report this to the biohazard committee, right? I should call.
No, don't be a fool. I don't want that collection of menopausal old men crawling all over us.
What are you talking about? It was my fault. I should report it.
Look, it was a K12 weakened strain. Can't survive outside of lab conditions. We're not even sure the gene splice took. Now, the chances of something turning up are as close to zero as you can get. The next time you be careful. Right?
Okay.
I'll wait for you in your car.
Do you mind?
What?
A little privacy?
It's my bathroom.
What do you want?
Are you gonna get ready? Put on your dress.
Just get out of here and I will.
I never could stand waiting for you to dress.
Well, thank God that problem hasn't turned up for what, 10 years now?
Oh, I thought you remembered. I thought you hardly noticed.
Oh, yes, I noticed. After a few rolls with you, I seriously considered either becoming a lesbian or joining a convent.
Oh, you weren't that bad.
Thank you.
Where was it? Charlie Bernstein's, Linda, what's her name? Or that flea bag in 114th Street.
I think the first time was Claremont Avenue. I remember I was drinking a brandy Alexander, which testifies to my total innocence in youth. And Mark Rudd had just occupied the library, and I started to cry, remember? I mean, Columbia was at the barricades, and I felt guilty that I wasn't at the demonstration. However, you comforted me. You pointed out that we had an obligation to science, to our work. And then you said something so incredibly profound. Yeah. You said, Louise, biology is about life. And with the sound of that ringing in my ears, you had my blouse completely unbuttoned and the lights off.
Oh, come on. You make it sound like the seduction of Louisa May Alcott. What, you were 23, 24?
22.
Yeah, going on 35. I presume you knew what you were doing.
Come on, you had your doctorate, right? You had published 2 or 3 papers, you were on my master's committee, and you were a very brilliant and creative scientist. I'm afraid that was, for me, a very powerful aphrodisiac. I guess I was what you would call today, a groupie.
Well...
However, that was many, many years ago. So, get out.
By the way, Mark Rudd is now selling insurance.
Out.
Casimir!
Henderson!
Listen, can you tie one of these things?
Hold still. Isn't it convenient that there are so many of us around to tend to the more grubby details of life? You know, like chauffeuring, keeping lab reports, writing grant proposals, tying your tie, sleeping with you.
I must have been pretty impressive. That was over 10 years ago.
Oh, I remember it very well. And afterwards, I thought to myself, why? Why does he do it? Why? I mean, I wasn't very beautiful. And I don't suppose I was really very good at it, was I?
Oh, adequate, Louise, adequate.
And suddenly I realized he does it because it's there. Do you know that at our most intimate moments, you made me feel like Mount Everest? And you were Sir Edmund Hillary, armed with an ice axe, ready to plant the British flag at the summit.
Casimir, that's a lot of crap.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Well, tell me, what do you think about? Really? What was on your mind the last time you made love?
To whom?
To anyone.
As a matter of fact, I was thinking of the research design.
Oh, how sensual. Oh.
It all became clear to me. First produce a host bacteria, splice in a gene that will express mouse tumor antigen, then find a positive confirmation of the specific viral source of the cancer, then splice that gene in question with another E. coli, produce an anti-cancer vaccine, sell the whole thing to Scharf Dexter, beating out Grossman, and the climax comes in Stockholm.
With his second Nobel Prize.
With a second Nobel Prize. See, it's a question of combining the sexual ah with the scientific aha.
When we took a slice of the rat cake, it was absolutely rotten.
I told her. Grant ran out in September. There's no hard money on the departmental budget. But I could juggle the titles. Thanks. I could juggle the titles on the line budget. It's done all
I
the
told him
time.
I was going to file sex discrimination with the State Commission on Human Rights and kick them right
Doctor?
into... Oh, no, thank you. This is exactly the kind of thing I can do.
Hors d'oeuvre, Doctor?
My dear boy, in this whole gathering, there are probably only 2 non-PhDs present. I am one of them.
Sir?
No thanks. Doctor?
I'm afraid I'm the other non-doctor, but thanks for the compliment. No.
Non-doctor, huh? How did you get in?
I showed him my high school diploma from Sacred Heart High School. Fortunately, it was in Latin, so nobody knew. You connected with the university?
My wife's a senior researcher in the molecular genetics department. Pete Casimir.
Casimir. Where do I know that name from? What do you do?
I'm a writer.
What would I have read by you?
Probably nothing. My latest oeuvre consists of a series of pop science for 9-year-olds. They sell them in the supermarket.
Science fiction, all right. You wrote stories for Galaxy?
No, not quite. Amazing fiction? I never made it into Galaxy. I trust this is scotch.
Yes, sir.
Are you in the faculty?
No, I'm Frank Bologna.
Oh, you're the new mayor.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My wife spent 2 months working for your opponent.
I know.
Nobody could figure out how the hell you won. I mean, we never met anybody who was for you.
That's probably why I won. A lot more Italians, Greeks, Poles, and blacks in Cardiff than associate professors of literature.
What are you doing here? You know, you're in enemy territory.
It's part of the job. This afternoon, I was at a PBA negotiation, a capital budget hearing, and a bar mitzvah. Tonight, after this, I go to a Polish-American Society dinner and an NAACP dance. Oh, and I'm here to express my gratitude, or rather the city's gratitude, for the new laboratory wing.
Are you really grateful?
Oh, yeah. A lot of my Italians, Greeks, and Poles will be laying the bricks.
Ah, the prima ballerina has arrived.
That's Dr. Henderson?
Yeah, with President Dobie clutching his arm in triumph. After he won his Nobel Prize, Henderson became a free agent. Dobie there outbid MIT, the New York Yankees. But he earns his keep. He brings in the grants. A very interesting phenomenon, our President Dobie. In his youth, he was a genuine scholar. I believe he specialized in the Valois kings of France. But he has come a long way, baby. He has forgotten King Louis XI and found his true vocation. Consorting with foundations, oil companies, cabinet officers, seeking the bubble subsidy, even in the cannon's mouth.
Louise, Leo. What are you doing here?
I was summoned.
I thought you hated this sort of thing.
I do, but even an emeritus is occasionally of importance. They can put him in a window. They can say, see, he was a colleague of Einstein, Lisa Meitner, the atom bomb, a prehistoric artifact.
Leo, that's not true.
It's true. What else am I good for? Letterheads. I let them use my name on letters for conservation, save the seals, porpoises, whales. Every time I open a can of tuna fish, I feel like a hypocrite.
Leo, how long has Pete been here?
I really don't know. I've been busy trying to act rumpled, humble, and faintly reminiscent of Albert Einstein.
That looks like his third scotch.
Actually, Albert was not really that humble.
The trouble is, after 3 scotches, Pete begins to think he's Jonathan Swift. Excuse me.
I want Nelson Chase to hear about your work firsthand. He's president of the Kingway Foundation, as of course you know. Ah, Nelson, this is Dr. Tom Henderson.
Oh, this is an honor, Dr. Henderson.
Well, this is a pleasure.
Of course, I'm only an attorney, but I find your field fascinating. You can actually take the central essence of life and split it, recombine it to form new forms.
Well, it's a little oversimplified. You see, it's a part of a long chain of research. Ah, your work is staggering, Tom. To actually manipulate the secret elements that go to make up heredity, to map for the first time the human genetic terra incognita, where previously was inscribed only, "Here be tigers."
We're not up to tigers yet. No, actually, at the moment we're working on bacteria. It's called E. coli. It lives in the gut. You see, we can separate the DNA out into plasmid rings. Then using an enzyme, very much like a chisel, we knock out little pieces. Now, these little pieces are sticky. They'll grab onto loose ends of DNA and rejoin them.
It leads to awesome potential. The purposeful improvement of human stock, the eventual Homo superior.
You mean Superman?
Well, at least superbacteria. You see, it's here now. They're working on recombinant DNA out at Scharf Dexter on Route 138. By the way, Marty Grossman is ripping off my research to produce new bacteria. They also tell me that there's an oil company that has a bacterium that will eat oil spills.
But the potential in Tom's work is even more exciting. Cancer.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Well, of course, Mayor. Mayor Bologna, this is Mr. Nelson Chase of the Kingway Foundation, and of course you know Dr. Henderson.
Yes, indeed. Now, I'm not a scientist, and this is probably foolish, but you seem to be saying that you're actually creating life in the laboratory. Don't you feel a little uneasy?
Why should I?
Well, it's never been done before.
Well, on that theory, we'd all be doing a lot of walking because no one would have invented the wheel.
Yes, well, I suppose I just don't understand. I guess it would be very difficult to simplify it so that an ordinary person could understand?
Yes, it would.
Mayor, what Dr. Henderson means is that, well, that you put your finger on the most interesting problem. The interface between science and the layman's world is, well, the challenge of communication. Nelson, you've been doing some exciting work at Kingway.
Now, wait. Whoa. Wait a minute. His Honor has asked a perfectly reasonable question, and it ought to be answered. Are you creating new life? Do you labor 6 days, and on the 7th, do you rest?
Mayor, the challenge of communication...
Exactly, communication. How can the ordinary lumpen Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Frank be made to understand? Now, this is my field, gentlemen. I am that lower form of scientific life, the popularizer.
Young man...
It's okay. Fortunately, I have the answer, Your Honor. Dr. Henderson's work was brilliantly explicated as early as 1817 by Miss Mary Shelley, wife to Percy Bysshe. Bysshe.
Casimir draw.
No, it fits perfectly. You are Frankenstein. Baron Frankenstein, working in secret in your Gothic laboratory. Your assistant, my wife, Dr. Casimir, is Igor.
Oh, Master, all is ready in the laboratory.
There, strapped to the table, awaiting the lightning bolts and special effects that will bring it to life, is the monster, stitched together in unholy mockery from a grab bag of odd parts. The monster, in this case, a bacterium. Oh, they have warned you. There are some things in this world, Doctor, that man was not meant to know, but he will not listen. Driven by arrogance and presumption, he brings the monster to life. The Henderson monster, stalking the countryside, terrorizing virgins and blind hermits, searching for a little girl with blonde ringlets and an armful of flowers.
This is very amusing, young man.
And then you, the burgomaster of the village, you lead the angry mob of peasants carrying torches and scythes and pruning hooks, and behind you marches the kindly old parish priest carrying the crucifix, and the superstitious villagers cry out, "Burn! Burn
the university down to the bare endowment. To the castle! To the castle! Oh, don't touch him! It's all right. It's just scotch. Comes right out. I spill it all the time. Just a minute.
I'll get a towel, sir.
Terribly sorry. Okay. Please, please. Well, I think it's time for a little supper. Tom, Nelson, Mayor Bologna.
My car's over here.
I think you've had enough collisions for one day.
Now, look, if they're so pompous that they can't appreciate a little flight of fancy...
Oh, was that what it was? I could have sworn it was a mumbling drunk venting his spleen.
What do you mean, spleen?
Why is it every time you meet Henderson, you feel this need to attack him?
Henderson is nothing to me.
Quiet. I don't know if this can percolate through the scotch.
Try me.
But I am not employed by the university itself.
I know.
I am part of Henderson's grant, just like the paper towels. He can dispose of me anytime he feels like it.
Oh, but who would keep his log and wipe his nose?
Get in. The point is, there aren't a lot of good research jobs around, you know? Just how far do you think I'd get marked lousy by a Nobel laureate in a major university?
Why did you go to work for him last year again? You told me you hated his guts when you were at Columbia. You have your doctorate. You've published on your own. Why tail after him again?
Because he's Thomas Debs Henderson.
I tell you, it gets me. It really gets me, the way the two of you made your entrance today. Very appropriate. A genetic entrance. He's dominant, and you're recessive.
Ow! Why the hell can't you ever close the drawers? I go around this damn house closing drawers after you, and kitchen cabinet doors. You can't even put the lid down on the toilet.
Well, that's because I do not have the cold, orderly, organized temperament of a research scientist.
No, it's because you can't bring yourself to carry anything important to a satisfactory conclusion. You won't take anything seriously. Not politics, not science, not careers, nothing. Something strikes your warped mind as funny, you just spew it right out.
Why not?
Because it isn't funny, it's irresponsible. You amuse yourself with that second-rate Mel Brooks Frankenstein routine, and you don't even realize that a hack politician like Frank Bologna isn't going to understand what a man like Henderson stands for.
I give up.
What does a man like Henderson stand for?
Probably a whole lot less than I stand for.
You know, if you found out the world was coming to an end and you could actually do something about it, you'd rather tell it at lunch as a funny story and forget about it.
I hope so. The trouble with you is, you still believe in the perfectibility of man and the inevitability of a happy ending. You have this faith that your guru, Henderson, will bring enlightenment and the second coming of the Nobel Prize. Well, I'm not so sure that everything always works out for the best, in the best of all possible worlds.
Well, that's not surprising, because you can't even get your arm into your sleeve.
Ha-ha! I went far enough in science to know Murphy's Law. If something can go wrong in an experiment, it will.
You know, I've often wondered if your worldview is colored by the number of times you go to bed facing the probability of a hangover in the morning. Good night.
How do you know that this monster you and Henderson are creating in your Formica Gothic laboratory won't escape? Are you so perfect that you could never make a mistake? Suppose your touching faith in Thomas Debs Henderson is misplaced. Suppose there are some things in this world, Doctor, that man was not meant to know. I won't stand for anyone telling me what to do in my own lab.
Tom, we have to handle things like this with a sense of grace. Now, this is not a formal investigation of the Biohazard Committee. We're just here for a friendly preliminary chat.
Actually, I'm the only one on the committee without a teaching or research schedule, so I was put in charge of the forms for the NIH.
I don't have time for red tape. Dr. Casimir handles that sort of thing for me.
The fact is, Dr. Henderson, you know, of course, there are new guidelines issued by the National Institute of Health for safety precaution in recombinant DNA research. Now, you have to answer only 2 questions, really. Is the work you're doing suited to the safety rating of your laboratory? And I believe your rating is P3, or is it, P2?
Look, Professor, I understand you enjoyed a certain reputation a generation ago, but I believe that was as a nuclear physicist. You are not a molecular geneticist. I am. Therefore, I hardly find you in position to pass judgment on my research according to my own discipline.
You are right, but what could I do? I was placed on the committee.
It's a question of clerical oversight, Tom. Every project on a government grant has to file a pledge, a memorandum of understanding and agreement to abide by the guidelines and regulations. Now, somehow your signed form must have been misplaced.
No, it wasn't. I didn't sign it.
Why not?
Because it's a lot of nonsense.
Of course it is, Tom. Intolerable to burden scholars with all this bureaucratic red tape, but you just sign the papers as a formality. Huh?
Oh, but it has to be filed before the grant is formalized. You see, I'm sorry.
Let me help you, Leo.
So clumsy.
Drop by my office this afternoon. We'll have a drink and take care of the details then, huh? Professor, I'll take you home. It's on my way.
But we haven't actually considered whether the safety rating of the lab is adequate.
It's all settled. There's no problem.
But the rules are very
Not
strict.
to worry. After all, Tom is the most brilliant and respected man in his field.
Oh, well, that is true.
I am certain we have his absolute assurance that everything will be fine. A pleasure, Dr.
Casimir.
Oh, yes. Good day. Come along, Professor.
I don't understand. I really don't. I'm sorry.
I don't want any restrictions in my lab. Tedeschi hasn't done anything good since they lifted his security clearance in the 50s. Let him go pick at a nuclear power plant somewhere.
Did you read the NIH guidelines?
Hell, I wrote them.
Oh, did you? I think you're mistaken, Doctor. They sent you a preliminary draft for comment. Remember, I gave it to you. I don't think you even responded.
Have some more coffee over there.
Yes, sir. You know, you could argue that with the experiment we're running right now, we should be in a P3 lab, you know? Negative air pressure, an incineration system.
Come on, don't be ridiculous.
I'm not.
If we open that up, we'd have to shut down the project, wait for the construction of a new lab. That would be a year. We don't have the time. Sam Klein out in L.A. would have beaten us out by 6 months.
Yeah. Suppose you're right.
You know, there's not a chance in a million of anything serious happening in my lab.
I'm sorry I didn't see you standing there.
The door was open. I didn't want to interrupt. Play.
No. I can't see the notes anymore, and the presto always comes out grave. Please, sit down.
Frankenstein.
Oh, the old book. Yes, by Mary Shelley.
Any particular reason for reading Frankenstein?
I already saw the movie on television.
I don't think I ever read the original.
You should. The book is very different, you know. The scientist, Frankenstein himself, was not a madman. He was seeking for knowledge, rationally, scientifically. And what Mary, the author, is saying is Who is to guarantee the worth or benefit of this absolute pursuit of knowledge?
That was in what, 1817?
More than 150 years ago. All right. Enough Mozart. Louise, my dear. What can I do for you?
Leo, you asked me to come over.
Ah, of course. I forgot. It's very nice of you to come. You know, in many ways, I was very much like him. Frankenstein, not the monster, you know, the scientist.
Right, not Karloff, the other one.
Yeah. When I was younger, I was considered quite brilliant. I worked with Fermi under the stadium in Chicago. The first nuclear reaction during the Hitler War. We were all brilliant, all of us. Oppie, Courant, Szilard. I remember the sense of mastery we had, the complete control. We were the saucers and the apprentice combined. Yeah. Duca, you know. Yeah.
You were saying about having complete control?
Yeah. Anyone who cried out like Cassandra was thought to have loss of will. And you notice those of us who grew up in Germany, we always talked about will. It was part Nietzsche, and God help us, part Hitler.
Leo, that was then. I know where you stand now. Remember we did that article together on nuclear pollution?
Oh, please, so. I came late to see the danger. Oh, yes, I quarreled with Teller about the H-bomb. It's not very hard to argue with Teller. He's a Hungarian. So, now I play Mozart duets alone. And when they need a figurehead to shake a finger about pollution, radioactivity.
Leo, the doorbell?
Oh, yeah. But the Allegros are always andante. Please, do me a favor, just... Sure. Thank you. Come in, the door's open. Oh, thanks for coming. Louise! Ah, Dr. Louise Casimir, if I may, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Bologna, who has the honor of being the newly elected mayor.
Dr. Casimir and I have met, Professor.
Oh, yes. See, I signed the ad in the Register pointing out that his campaign slogan of responsibility and neighborhoods was just a code word for cutting the school budget and opposing housing integration.
Yes, well, I'm afraid it's very easy for the college people to complain. They get subsidized university housing and they send their children to the School of Education, model school, tuition free as a professional courtesy, of course.
All right, the campaign is over, and if the mayor wishes to forgive...
Leo, you signed the ad.
I did?
Yes.
Well, there are many things that I signed.
Well, I'm sure His Honor would feel more comfortable if I just...
No, that's the whole idea. I told him to come and meet you.
Why?
Well, when the professor came to me, I told him I needed some more information from someone that had direct knowledge.
Leo, what's this all about?
Now, Louise, please don't be upset.
What kind of information?
No.
The professor has merely reported that there's a certain difference of opinion as to the work in Dr. Henderson's laboratory.
Ah, I see. I can't believe this, Leo. How could you take something like this to an outsider? How could you?
Doctor, I just want to ask a few simple questions about the experiments in...
That is no business of a provincial political hatchet man.
Now, look here, Doctor. This provincial political hatchet man beat the crap out of your hand-picked elitist academic, and that makes me the mayor of this city. Now, I've done my homework. Sooner or later, somebody's going to have to answer. Now, if I'm full of, you know, talking through my hat, just tell me right now, and you can save Henderson a lot of trouble.
All right. Now, that seems a reasonable request. And besides what you said about political hatchet man, that's not nice. Why don't we go sit in the yard? We'll get some beer, some local, and we'll talk, please.
Okay, I have a definition of recombinant DNA. It's a technique for inserting genetic information from one organism into the gene structure of another, right?
Right.
Okay, A. Combinations can be made which give organisms the ability to transmit disease like cancer across species lines. For example, the gene for producing a mouse tumor can be taken from a virus and inserted in a bacteria, which will then reproduce with the new gene generation after generation.
Where'd you get that?
Time magazine.
And you're going to question a Nobel Prize winner on the basis of Time magazine?
Look, Doctor, is it true?
Yeah.
Okay, B. The bacteria used as host for these experiments is E. coli, which is found coli, which is found in the human gut and almost every other higher form of life on Earth, right? Okay, C. Laboratory E. coli will exchange genetic information with other bacteria outside the lab. Therefore, if a new genetic code is artificially introduced into E. coli, it can reproduce, pass it on with other non-lab bacteria. Okay, D. If such bacteria escape into the world, there is no way to stop the total spread of the new life form, which, if the new form is dangerous to man, could mean the end of life itself. Right? Okay, now take...
Look, you don't understand. This is completely ridiculous. There are laboratory procedures. There are other safeguards, NIH guidelines. I'm not going to take part in this.
That's all right, Doctor. I'm leaving. I thank you for the information. Can I call you if I have any further questions?
No.
Oh, that's all right, Doctor. I know my way. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Now, why would I say a banal thing like that? Have a
Leo,
nice day.
how could you do this? How could you do this to me? How could you put me in this position? I don't understand.
I'm sorry, but the young man just wanted to confirm some information.
How could you hand a politically ambitious reactionary like that the perfect handle to attack everything? Henderson, a university, science, knowledge.
I don't see we're asking a few questions as an attack on anything.
It will be, don't you see? It'll fit right in. That Proposition 13 mentality, anti-intellectualism. He'll whip up his constituency of Archie bunkers into some kind of idiot's crusade.
Louise, do not be a snob.
I can't believe this.
Listen to me, Louise, please. Louise, listen to me. In the beginning, I was so sure the nuclear age would bring the perfection of mankind. The Messiah, the kingdom of God. And after, I could no longer believe. Oh, sure, I went to New Hampshire and howled before half-built nuclear plants, but no one listened. I was a prophet made mad by my own pride, my own arrogance. And now it's too late. Pandora's box is open. And that plant in Pennsylvania, 3 Mile Island, almost a meltdown. Pregnant women and children evacuated. Who knows what will happen in the bone marrow and the blood cell? I love you. Do I want you to bear the same burden?
You don't understand, Leo. You can't put me in this position. You can't. Why are you doing this to me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It was my fault. I've been having a lot of trouble with Pete, and I know that it was a weekend strain, and I know that nothing can happen. The chances are 1,000,000 to 1. The point is, I am a very skilled and competent researcher. I know very well what good lab procedure is. It's just that I was distracted for a moment. And theoretically, with a weakened strain, there can be no chance of anything happening. However, I dumped a live culture in the sink. E. coli culture. I dumped it in the sink and went down the drain.
O'clock. I've been asked by visitors why I don't wear a wristwatch. Well, what were we saying before the tintinnabulation of the bells?
I asked for some specific information.
Ah, yes. You know, Mayor, there is a tradition in history of the role of the university in Paris and in Wittenberg. The university was considered to have extraterritoriality. The city exercised no jurisdiction. Only the king's writ prevailed.
Well, we aren't in Paris or Wittenberg, are we?
Somehow, Mayor, I sense a certain hostility on your part toward the university. Now, we've always lived together as good neighbors.
Tax-free neighbors. You hold 1/3 of the real estate in the city.
Yes, but on the other hand, we generate 70% of the jobs directly or indirectly.
Sir, my information is that there are certain serious questions raised in the Biohazard Committee about the work in Dr. Henderson's lab, that the requirements of the NIH were ignored.
Oh, dear. I can only assume that you've been in contact with our distinguished Professor Emeritus Leo Tedeschi. It is, of course, a sad case. There are so many distinguished scholars who, well, get older and seem to become obsessed with some rather unorthodox interest. There was Andrew Ivy with crabiazin, that cancer panacea, and years ago, Frederick Schumann with Dianetics. It happens over and over again. Some chap with a lifetime of genuine contribution seems entranced with, Laetril or some of the trendy psychotherapies, Est, Rolfing, molasses and vinegar. Frightening, isn't it? A mind that reshaped the world. I think you would be well advised not to place too much reliance on Leo Tedeschi.
President Dobie, you haven't actually responded to my questions about the hazards coming from Henderson's work. So I'm going to have to request that the university just close it down.
Are you serious? Good Lord, are you seriously? I think we'd better understand a few realities here. Mayor Bologna, this university is a world-renowned, independent center of learning. I, as president, will not countenance any interference with academic freedom or unfettered scientific inquiry. This is not the Soviet Union. I'll remind you that the principle of independence of this university has been recognized for 200 years. No town policeman can enter the university commons without the permission of our provost.
Oh, yeah, the commons. You don't have to tell me about the commons. I grew up in this town. My father had a vegetable store on Hancock Street. When the students got good and drunk and came through upsetting the carts and smashing windows, the town cops would chase them and they'd run like hell for the commons. And by the time the provost and the campus cops showed up, the fun-loving college boys would disappear. It cost $128.37 to replace that front window every damn time.
Now, Mayor, I'm sure you don't mean to sound like Lopakhin in The Cherry Orchard. I mean, I cannot believe that you are motivated by some childhood animus.
I don't know The Cherry Orchard. They don't teach Chekhov in business school. I just want to warn you, the times have changed. We're the majority now. And I'm not one of your alumni. When I graduated high school, you were taking damn few Italian townies from Hancock Street.
Mayor Bologna, I have assured you that the university procedures are absolutely adequate. But above that, I have a grave responsibility to protect the freedom of a distinguished scientist, a Nobel Prize winner like Dr. Henderson.
And I have the responsibility to the city. And if that means exercising our legal power over the university, I will consider it not only my duty, but my pleasure.
My, how time flies in interesting company.
Fall asleep?
What are you doing? Watching some god-awful movie on television?
No, as a matter of fact, it was a classic. You would have loved it. Frankenstein.
Oh, it wasn't funny the first time.
But this time, actually, it's earlier than you think. I was watching the 11 o'clock news. It seems that at tonight's meeting of the city council, Frank Bologna introduced an ordinance for a ban on all recombinant DNA experiments within the city limits.
What?
At least until the council is persuaded the experiments are safe.
They can't do that.
They did, right before the weather report. Tomorrow will be warmer with possible showers.
Pete, what did they say?
Let's see. They're not planning to evacuate the city at this point in time. Actually, the resolution calls for hearings in several weeks.
Hearings?
Hearings before the city council.
They can't stop Henderson's work. No way.
They seem to think they can. And I will admit that the prospect of Thomas Debs called before the Inquisition has great charm. Do you think he'll recant and then, echoing Galileo, murmur under his breath, "Not home"?
It isn't funny. That's my work, too, you know?
Is it? They didn't mention you. No, just Henderson. They had that old picture of him in white tie upstaging the King of Sweden while accepting the Nobel Prize.
They won't pass a thing like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's regressive.
Well, there was a fair amount of reference to 3 Mile Island and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So a very interesting intellectual body, our city council. Let's see. A plumbing contractor, the owner of the Cardiff Motel, the anti-abortion lady, the fellow with the fried chicken franchise. Oh, and 3 ethnics, to wit, a Pole, a Greek, and a black man from the Portuguese Cape Verde Islands.
You're having a good time, aren't you?
I am enchanted.
Because you can't stand to see someone actually accomplish anything. Because you become bilious at the thought of someone who has absolute confidence in himself.
You mean Henderson? That may well be it. There is something inhuman about a man who has never been tested by failure or doubt. You know me, I always root against Robert Redford in the movies. I am always for the prosecutor against F. Lee Bailey.
Oh, you talk about egocentricity. You are looking at a serious scientific problem from the most petty, neurotic point of view. You know damn well the reason Henderson threatens you is because he's a genius.
No.
No.
No. It's because it comes so easily to him. And he accepts it as if it were owed to him. The whole thing. From the Nobel Prize to appearing on Johnny Carson, wedged between Shecky Greene and Farrah Fawcett Majors.
Oh, Pete. Envy is such a petty emotion.
His is the arrogance, not of intellect, but of brilliance, which is a different and lesser thing.
Would you get off my side of the bed, please? I'm going to sleep.
Science, to Henderson, is a competitive sport, as is procuring grants, or a less exciting activity, sex.
Pete, what are you trying to do?
Tell me, has he ever faced a scientific barrier he could not breach with a brilliant flash of insight? Was there ever a grant he could not obtain by some Byzantine political maneuver? Some nubile young woman he could not overwhelm with his casual sexual charm?
No, not that I know of.
I presume you're speaking from experience?
I am. I've slept with him.
How was he?
Brilliant. Well, aren't you going to say anything, Pete? Don't you have a good one-liner?
What would you suggest I say?
I don't know. Don't you want to know when? Under what circumstances?
Not particularly. I'm not that kinky. However, if it increases your interest, if you need some fillip of guilt to make the memory more piquant, then by all means, tell me.
I know, gentlemen, that we're all dedicated to the defense of freedom of inquiry, and of course we're all aware of the dangers of state-controlled science. Now, I've asked you to this little luncheon today because the questions, legitimate questions I emphasize, asked by Mayor Bologna, I think can be laid to rest by the assurances of men of integrity, expert in their fields. Now, it's a great pleasure to have Dr. Lewis Halloran of the federal agency with us today. His agency funds the Henderson work.
Some saccharin, please.
Dr. Halloran, would you...
Oh, yes, thank you. These matters are extremely difficult for the layman to comprehend. For example, the president depends upon scientifically qualified advisors to guide him, as does the Congress. The point is that the public interest is completely protected. In this case, the federal agency with the most highly qualified men and women in this particular discipline have studied the matter and promulgated guidelines which absolutely guarantee the safety of the research and protect the public. I think we can depend upon the efficacy of the federal guidelines.
Saccharin, sir.
I'm not so sure of that, Doctor. Here, after all, you are using saccharin, which the Surgeon General has found to cause cancer in rats. And I'm smoking a pipe, risking what? Lung cancer, perhaps the jaw, who knows?
Leo, the point is that...
If I may. Now, the guidelines. The problem is that most of the scientists called upon to write them were working on recombinant DNA experiments themselves or representing commercial firms with interests, like Dr. Grossman here.
I can't believe
And
that you're
so
implying...
they recommended procedures that would not stop or even seriously restrict their work. As to the inherent wisdom of government agencies in these matters, in my own field, I'm sure you remember a 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, huh? It was constructed, designed, and operated under the wisdom of these government agencies. I'm afraid that scientists can be as short-sighted, pig-headed, and corrupt as any other special interest group.
Well, actually, gentlemen, it seems to me that whether or not your guidelines are adequate or not, we have a little problem here in town. I mean, these guidelines only bind laboratories working under federal money through NIH grants. That's right, isn't it?
Oh, yes, exactly.
Well, then Dr. Grossman here from Sharp Dexter, he doesn't take a nickel from the government. He's a straight commercial profit-making operation. I mean, he doesn't come under your guidelines at all.
I can assure you, Mayor Bologna, that we are not working on anything dangerous.
Sir, how do I know that? How do you know it?
It's my field. Now, Your Honor, Sheriff Dexter has been a very good citizen of this city. I pulled a few figures before coming to lunch. There are 1,500 jobs at all levels at Sheriff Dexter in this area. We spend over $20 million on various local overhead expenses, not to mention real estate, incorporated business, inventory, and payroll taxes. Now, let me be frank. The company cannot accept your proposed ordinance, Your Honor. This is a matter of government interference in the private sector.
Look, if somebody wants to transport nitroglycerin through the streets, we'd interfere in a hurry, right?
Let me give you the bottom line. We're a multinational company. We'll have to close down the plant. 1,500 jobs. You'll have to explain that before the next election.
I'm afraid Dr. Grossman has a point, Mayor Bologna. Your constituency will certainly be against government interference, which might cost jobs. And in this case, will cost jobs.
Gentlemen, I know my constituency a hell of a lot better than you do. I don't overestimate it, and I don't romanticize it. The voter in this town, hell, anywhere, en masse, is just plain ignorant. They're afraid of scientists, they're afraid of PhDs, and anything they're afraid of, they're sore as hell at. They feel left out. They don't know how, but they're sure they're getting the stick. Now, I'm telling you, gentlemen, you may be scientists and historians, but now you're talking about my field, my discipline. Now, the hearings will be held, and if the mayor and the city council are convinced that there is a danger to this community, whether your experts agree or not, that ordinance will pass. I promise you only one thing, a fair hearing without prejudging. But if you fail, let me warn you, don't feel that you can appeal to the ordinary citizen, because they're going to be right behind me with torches starting up the hill to burn the castle. Bravo. Oh, yes. Send my lunch bill to City Hall. Mark it personal, please.
Well, now, Mayor.
Alan, I told you this meeting wouldn't work.
Now, Tom.
Tedeschi, you ought to be put away.
Dr. Henderson, we may disagree with Professor Tedeschi, but there's no reason...
Alan, you can take your academic etiquette and shove it.
Now, Tom, let's not get all...
What the hell right has a collection of plumbers, short-order cooks, greasy politicians to handcuff scientists, to forbid us to seek knowledge?
Well, it's their world, too. Their children will have to live in it.
Get him into a nursing home.
Dr.
Or his
Henderson,
incontinence won't do any damage.
you will listen to me, please. There was a time when I worked on the project in Los Alamos with Oppenheimer and Courant and Szilard and all the others. It was secret. But there was perhaps a reason then for us taking the power in our own hands to make a decision, to decide to make the bomb. And it was used. But in this matter of your work, there is no war, there is no race with Nazi scientists. There is time. Time to count the cost, to consider the danger, to improve the technology.
Why risk a world when there is time? Time? You may have time. That's all you've got. I haven't. I can do it now. I won't stop. Why? For what? So that every illiterate in the street can understand what I'm doing? If we did that, we'd still be squatting in caves, eating maggots raw because there was a city ordinance against experimenting with fire. You realize what happens if they close us down for 6 months? Sam Klein has his new strain ready.
Don't you think it's possible, just possible, that Bologna is genuinely concerned about the dangers?
No. Look, the Yahoos are on the march. See, this is a coalition of every single issue nut. Anti-vivisectionists, budget cutters, ban the bomb, save the cockroaches. All inspired by a headline-hunting political hack.
Well, I think Leo Tedeschi's sincere.
Sure he is. So is Judas. Look, he doesn't know what it's all about anymore.
What it?
It, research. I mean, the pure pleasure of asking the questions, not just finding the answers, but finding the questions. They don't understand. They don't know from the first work on the cell. What was his name, that Swiss, back in 1868?
Mischer.
Mischer. Then the progression, identification of the DNA, Avery in the 20s and the 30s. Then the nailing down the fact that DNA is the medium of genetic information. I mean, all of them. McLeod, Watson. I mean, how in the hell can a man like Bologna possibly understand the elegance of the Watson-Crick double helix structure of the DNA molecule? Impossible. Right? I remember when I did my doctorate, my problem at Harvard under Hughes. First, I had a nice, safe project, replicating Sam Klein's resistant strain work on the coast. I said, no. I'm not going to waste my time in finicky lab procedures, statistics, so I invented a question nobody ever asked before on the contamination of the Salk polio virus with SV40 tumor virus, and I found the answer.
By brilliance or by intellect?
I don't know, but I remember it, the absolute, exact instant that that answer came to me. The bloody archetypal aha! I was 22.
Hey! Hi there.
Hi.
Baron, I hear you had a lively lunch.
Oh, where'd you hear that?
Dame Rumor hath 1,000 tongues.
Pete, it's the middle of the afternoon. You're half in the bag, and it's very embarrassing.
I'm not embarrassed. Are you embarrassed, Doctor?
No, just bored.
Touché, touché. A rapier wit, displaying that brilliance which I understand extends from science to other things.
Pete, let's not have a stupid scene, all right?
Oh, but it's a brilliant scene. Baron Frankenstein meets Abbott and Costello for lunch at the Burning Bush Country Club with old Leo wandering in from another movie.
Pete, go away. Hey, have another drink, all right? Leave us alone. We have work to do.
Actually, I have some news for you. I heard it on WHAF, all news all the time. Give us 22 minutes and we'll give you the world. Dr. Martin Grossman of Scharf Dexter, played by Peter Lorre, has announced a new scientific breakthrough.
Marty Grossman couldn't break through a slice of wet bread.
Well, Scharf Dexter announces they are patenting a new microbe they have created, Fiat E. coli. It either eats plastic or excretes insulin, I forget which, but their stock went up 1 7/8 on the big board. And Payne Weber said, "Thank you, Scharf Dexter."
Sure, he's a plumber, a sleazy alchemist. He'll do anything for a buck.
Like the miller's daughter, promising to spin straw into gold.
Look, we have to go. That batch will be ready for the centrifuge. Come on.
Consider the fascinating prospect of a multinational corporation like Scharf Dexter actually conceiving new life and patenting it and owning it.
He didn't mention a word about it at lunch, the sleaze.
Naturally, one doesn't speak of such things while eating, but what a fascinating prospect. Tell me, Baron, if one can recombine DNA to change the heredity of a bacteria and patent the result, well, in theory, why can't you continue the process up the evolutionary scale? Mice, rats, badgers, PhDs?
In theory, you could.
Create a new form of life and own it? So much for Harriet Beecher Stowe.
You're just encouraging.
Oh, I am encouraged. I mean, consider the possibilities of designing creatures to meet industrial needs. A 3-foot coal miner for narrow veins. A 10-foot basketball player. My God, the recreational and anatomical possibilities alone are enormous, Baron. Let's get a dish full of DNA and go in business for ourselves.
Would you like a lollipop?
Welcome, come meet Jesus. Everybody gather.
What flavor?
Red. I love you.
And I love you.
Jesus loves you too. Lollipop? Jesus loves you anyway.
Now don't you be shy. Come forward in love and innocence.
What the hell was that?
The children of grace. The sheep separated from the goats. Clean-cut, bright-eyed religious fanatics with white sneakers who have stopped seeking knowledge and truth and social justice and are content to honk because they love Jesus.
Let's go. Simon and Kenny are waiting.
They're backing Bologna's ordinance. They've been praying for your destruction, Baron. Aren't you afraid of the simple prayers of the simple-minded?
Why should I be? I was raised a Lutheran. Want to hear me recite the creed?
Ah, but academe hath no fury, like the charismatic force of post-adolescence on uncut faith.
Wow.
Tom, for God's sake.
And as we walk, the flame is drawing nearer to light our way, to guide us from above. It is the flame of hope that shines upon us. It is the light of everlasting love.
Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Brothers and sisters, bless you. Say amen. Amen. Say thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
I guess you all know me. I'm Brother Harold, and I want to welcome all you new friends to the Unified Church of the Children of Grace. And I want you to know that we love you. Every one of you. Now I want you to turn around to your neighbor and tell him that. Tell him that you love him.
I love you. I love you.
Get lost.
Now if you can say that, why can't you say it to Jesus? Go on. He's right here. He's listening. Don't be ashamed. He's right here. He's listening. You say it to Jesus. Say, I love you, Jesus.
I love you, Jesus.
Now, I want you to look over there. That is the Life Science Building. Now, do you know why the lights are always burning there? Because they think they are seeking after truth. But are they interested in the one truth that counts for all eternity? Oh, no. No, because we know that the truth isn't up there in those labs. It's right here. Everything that we have to know is right here in this book, the Holy Bible. I know, because I was one of them. Before I let Jesus into my heart, I was a scientist, and they tried to make me believe that it was all so complicated and mysterious. But there are no mysteries. Not when you have found the truth.
That's right, brother.
And then it all becomes so clear.
Let's get out of here.
It is all so beautifully simple. Every question is answered. Why search?
Do you want a lollipop?
No,
thanks.
Do you?
All you have to do
Thanks, I'll
is
just save it for after
know.
death.
Now, what have they done to us, these scientists? First, they exploded the atomic bomb and poisoned the air and the ground. They filled our lungs with carcinogens and polluted the good earth with radioactive isotopes. And now they want to reach into the very center of your soul. The genes, the chromosomes, the very stuff of life itself. Do we want their science? No! Do we want their $1 million grants? No! No! Small is beautiful. Simple is beautiful. Natural is beautiful. Oh, my friends and lovers, all over this country, people our age are hearing this message, searching for the simple, spiritual truth. And it's so easy to find. It's so easy. The false and misleading studies of so-called science take years, but our truth takes only an instant.
Amen, brother. Praise Jesus.
And it's yours. For all eternity. Amen. You don't have to study. You don't need an MA or a PhD. All you need to do is know. And we are going to start right now. We are going to show the people that God is on the side of this ordinance. We are going out into the streets and bear witness. We are going to stop the worship of the false idol of science. We are going to be as little children. We are going to be as newborn children.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to be born new.
Oh, yes.
Born new.
Yeah.
Born new. Oh, it is joyous to be born new. Do you hear me? Born new. Oh, leave behind the sin of intellectual pride and be born new.
Hey, that's your line.
For as ye are born
Yeah, that's
new,
what you tell your
ye shall be
bacteria.
as little
Believe in
children,
me, and ye shall be
little
born
children
new. Pete,
vouchsafe
please. And they
true
are,
knowledge
by
of
the
God.
grace of Henderson. You know, from the point of view of an E. coli bacteria, you're God.
Tom, let's go.
Now, I want you to ask the beautiful person next to you. Have you found God? Ask them. Ask them.
Have you found God? Have you found God? Have you found God?
Yes. Oh, yes, I have. I have found God. I have found God! I know who God is.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. Say thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus! I have seen him. I walked with him. This very day, I have touched him. Give me your hands. Give me your hands. You're beautiful. I have seen his miracles. I know he can create life born new.
Oh, yeah, he can create life born new.
He is a God. I mean, he is a God. He says, my will be done. No man can stand up against a God like that. No. You've got to love a God like that. Oh, yes, you've got to love him. Say amen. The heavens are telling the glory of God. The wonder of his work displays the firmaments. Yeah. Say thank you, Henderson. 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 Thank you, Henderson.
I'll be right with you.
All right, Casimir. What are you doing?
A little prophylaxis here. I don't want a surfeit of alcohol to inhibit the experiment.
Oh, I'm sure the experiment would have been concluded brilliantly. You don't ever have to worry about that one. You know, I was thinking about grace.
Grace who?
No, the word. When I was a little girl, I used to hear it a lot in church. God's grace. It's something God gives to you. For no reason, for no merit of your own. You can't earn grace. You can't learn it. It's a free gift. Undeserved.
What did you mean, would have been?
You have your charm, your sexual attraction, the same way you came by your scientific genius. By God's grace. It's very nice. You're very good at that.
That's the best put down I've ever had.
Grace. Grace by the genes. The luck of the draw. Unmanipulated. Not spliced. Juggled. Where are my shoes? Have you ever stopped to think why you do anything? Either in the lab or in bed?
That's ridiculous. Who has to ask what sex is for?
I do. That's why I think I'll put my shoes on. I think I have to know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Boy, that's cold-blooded. Everything was going great if I didn't go up to go to the John.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how little things can change our lives?
Come on. You made it very clear you were all for it.
You're right, I did. But as you said, you went to the John. And I had time to stop reacting like a promiscuous E. coli and really consider why. It wasn't too difficult. I'm a little drunk. I'm confused and hurt and sore as hell at my husband. And you. Oh, you. You have grace. You do. I must admit that after a long day of counting and logging colonies of bacteria, I have entertained some wonderful fantasies.
Then why did you put on your shoes?
Do you love me?
What kind of question is that? What are we, a couple schoolgirls? What does that have to do with anything?
I think I have to believe I love the man I sleep with. Just as I have to believe the work I do is good and needed and important to the world.
It's important. It's a second Nobel.
Do you remember that culture I poured down the drain? Suppose it's out there, right now, reproducing.
It was a K-12 weekend. Look, what does that have to do with it? You and I?
Isn't it?
No!
What if the odds went against us? Even at 1,000,000 to 1. Wonder if you could serve cancer on the half shell in 6 months. Would you shut down the lab, Henderson? Would you let Klein beat you out to Stockholm?
Cut out the Socratic dialogue. If there's any catastrophe in my lab...
Maybe we already have...
There isn't!
By the way, Henderson, I told Leo Tedeschi about the culture I spilled down the drain.
Why the hell did you do that? There are always minor screw-ups in labs.
Exactly.
But you don't advertise them.
I think I'm going to testify at Bologna's hearings.
No, you're not. It's my lab. I speak for the project.
I know. I'm going to speak against it.
You're going on the side of those idiots we saw tonight? You're going to suck on a spiritual lollipop? You know what's dangerous? They're dangerous.
I know.
I know what I'm doing. There'll never be any serious accident in my lab. You can believe that.
I'm sorry. I don't trust you anymore.
Why not? Because you nearly went to bed with me and backed out?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if I can't trust a man to sleep with him, how am I supposed to trust him with the future of the world?
That is the most portentous, pretentious, asinine thing I've ever heard. What has one got to do with the other?
I don't know. Just does for me. Well, I'm real sorry. Would have been brilliant. Where's Leo? The hearings are about to start.
But you picked him up.
I did, but he must have gone out again.
He isn't the first witness, is he?
No, I need to find him.
Wait, isn't that him?
Where?
There in the demonstration?
With Brother Harold?
Oh, no, the other demonstration, the children of the biosphere.
Where?
Well, isn't that him? There he is, next to the kid in the cowboy boots. I think it's a reflex. He's drawn to demonstrations like a moth to a flame. Last week he was spotted at a warehouse picketing for the Teamsters.
There's no place to run away. Hey, hey, DNA, stop experiments today. Hey, hey, DNA, there's no place to run away. Hey,
morning, Baron. Oh, time to see the Burgermeister. I trust the monster is properly chained back at the lab.
There you are, Casimir. There's your friends and buddies. Ignorant, self-lobotomized, afraid to think, afraid to do anything. Crying for a lollipop from Jesus. And on the other hand, knee-jerk anti-establishment revolutionaries, whining to return to a natural paradise that never existed in the first place. They're your friends, Tedeschi. But let me ask you something. How many of them, stoned out of their minds on religion or cannabis, have even the beginnings of an intelligent layman's understanding of this issue?
You know, you have a point, Baron. Oh, it's sort of like the demonstrators outside Ferdinand and Isabella's court saying, "Let Columbus sail, the world is flat."
I'll be right in, Leo. I put a scarf on a seat for you.
Thank you.
Whose side are you on?
I'm neutral. I'm a journalist.
Oh, when did that happen?
We haven't been communicating too swift, have we?
No, we
I have bona fide press credentials. The New York Times is here, and the AP, and the Washington Post. I am accredited to Rolling Stone. They expect from me the new journalism. Breezy, cynical, believing ill of all, every man a fool and a knave. And that's the new style. There is no good and evil, only total corruption and futility.
It was a fire out in everlasting love.
The point is, Your Honor, and council members, this particular field of research, recombinant DNA, or gene splicing as it's popularly known, has already compiled one of the most laudable safety records of any biological inquiry. It is my professional opinion that the risk involved in DNA experimentation is far less than research already accepted by the public without a qualm. For instance, the Army has been conducting biological warfare research at Fort Detrick, Maryland for years. The Arbovirus Laboratory at Yale University actually had some deaths investigating Lassa fever. All over the country, laboratories are handling dangerous and deadly viruses, subject, of course, to sensible and rational safety precautions. Now, it is true, as you pointed out in your opening remarks, Your Honor, that a few years ago, some scientists in the field were calling for a moratorium on the work. As a result, the NIH safety guidelines were adopted. But today, many of those same scientists feel that the dangers were overstated. There is absolutely no question that the city can put its faith in the NIH safety guidelines and in the scientific integrity and expertise of the researchers.
Now, Dr. Grossman, I have a few questions, if I may. Now, the line of research you're following at Scharf-Dexter, including the bacteria you've already patented, is designed to make certain plastics biodegradable. That is, you've created a bacteria that can digest plastic.
As you know, one of the problems facing this very city is the disposal of solid wastes, garbage. And a lot of that today is plastics. You can't burn it because it produces a cancer-causing air pollution. You can't bury it because it doesn't break down under normal bacterial action. But our little bug can digest plastic. Now, if our work is stopped, then the very people who claim to love the Earth will actually be holding up a key anti-pollution development.
This research represents an investment of millions, am I right?
Yes. And because Scharf-Dexter is a free enterprise in the private sector, this does not cost the taxpayer a single penny.
But you expect to get that money back and make a large profit.
That's the American way, yes.
It certainly is. But, Doctor, doesn't the investment and the expectation of a large profit color your judgment on the question of the basic safety of the research?
Mr. Mayor, I am first and foremost a scientist. I have my professional integrity, and so does my company.
That's Scharf-Dexter. That's a wholly owned subsidiary of Intercontinental Chemical Corporation. Now, didn't Scharf-Dexter operate a chemical plant in the town of St. Vith in Belgium, which on August 4th, 1974, exploded, producing a cloud of poison gas, which so contaminated the entire countryside that farms, villages, factories had to be abandoned, and the death toll reached 57?
I have no direct knowledge of this incident. It was an entirely different industrial operation. I don't see why anybody would raise that in connection with our DNA experimentation in our lab here in town.
These are ants, red ants. They first came into the Life Science Building in the 1950s, when the anthropology department used the basement storerooms, and there was a shipment of artifacts from South America. The exterminators can't seem to get rid of them. The point is this: these ants go everywhere, and they are the host to the same bacteria, E. coli, that we use in the recombinant experiments. As a safety measure, required by the NIH, we use a weakened strain of this bacteria, one that's not supposed to survive outside the lab. But these ants come in, and they bring in outside E. coli that are not weakened. They can live anywhere. And our experimental E. coli can exchange genetic information with this wild bacteria, and that completely defeats the safety procedure.
Exactly how do these colibacteriums exchange this genetic information?
Well, it turns out it's about the same way we do. It's called conjugation.
Oh.
The point is, certain polluting practices are reversible. I mean, you can stop dumping sewage in lakes, rivers, and oceans, and in time, nature will reverse the pollution and clean things up. But that's not true with recombinant DNA. A mistake, an accident, which releases a new life form, a genetically changed bacteria, cannot be reversed.
Dr. Casimir, Dr. Grossman tells us that we can have complete confidence in the safety guidelines and in the skill and integrity of experienced researchers. Now, you're an experienced researcher. Do you believe that it's possible for a dangerous mistake to happen in the lab?
I know it is. I made such a mistake myself. I have no excuse. It was careless. And, point is, it can happen in any lab. Doesn't sound like much. I poured a live bacterial culture down the drain. It was a weakened strain that supposedly can't live outside the laboratory. But there is new information that seems to indicate that this weakened strain can live for 4 days in the human gut and in sewage. Despite this information, the National Institute of Health still recommends this E. coli as safe. Suppose the NIH is wrong about this. Just suppose. Then something new would be added to the biosphere, a new form of life. And using the genetic code we gave it, it would reproduce generation after generation, and you couldn't reverse it. So, if the NIH is wrong about this, then the monster has already escaped. And couldn't recapture it or chain it up again because it's too late. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I've given you the background of this line of research. Now, I'm not going to make it sound exotic. I'm not going to make it sound mystical. Sure, the detailed theory, biology, chemistry, takes years to learn, but that's our trade. I'm sure it takes just as long to learn how to solder and cut pipe, to figure out a heating system, to sweat a joint. But nobody gets scared of a plumber. So what's it all about? Ladies and gentlemen, it's about life. That's what biology means. It's about life. Now, the question is, why are we doing this? This kind of research has led us to a new understanding of the basic structure of the gene. In the last year, we have found ways to restructure bacteria so we can create valuable hormones. For example, human insulin for the control of diabetes. What's down the road is staggering. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the possibility of learning the mechanism of genetic disease, Tay-Sachs, hemophilia, diabetes, perhaps even bipolar depression and other mental diseases. But that's not all. By understanding and improving genetic codes, we can produce a plant that can develop its own fertilizer. Thus, the world is not dependent upon dwindling oil supplies. How about a bacteria that can transform the debris of the Sahara into fertile ground? Now, about risk. You've heard a lot of hand-wringing. You've heard a lot of prophecies of doom. Let me tell you the simple scientific truth. Every day, every minute, every second, Nature herself is experimenting in genetics on a scale that makes our little effort look like pikers. I mean the infinite number of mutations, chance mutations. And that has been going on for millions of years. It's the reason we're sitting here, in this chamber, instead of lying around in a warm pool as a green coat of slime. It's called evolution. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this fear of recombinant DNA that they are selling you is as irrational as the fear of the X-ray that the doctor uses to save your life. Truth is the highest human value. And the freedom to pursue all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of opinion is the essence of a free society. Just as Frankfurt has said many years ago in defense of academic freedom, those who would subject the seeker after truth to restrictions based on demagogic and ill-formed popular superstition will dim the light of human progress and doom mankind to a catastrophe far more imminent than the nightmares conjured up by the short-sighted and the fearful.
Now, the other speakers have told you of the dangers in recombinant DNA experiments. Accidental contamination, the spread of new diseases, the dangers of crossing species lines with cancers, and other disasters. These are the possible failures. The truth is that what frightens me is the inevitable success. Now, Dr. Henderson tells us that nature continuously makes new life by mutations, by recombining DNA by a natural random process. Yes, that is true. But when Dr. Grossman, working in his laboratory, creates a bacteria that has never before existed, he has then speeded up evolution by 1 billion, 1 trillion, who knows how many times. The delicate balance of life on Earth between the virus and the one-cell bacteria and man can be changed so suddenly and cataclysmically and irreversibly. May God protect this Earth, not so much from the stumbler who throws bacteria down the drain, but from the brilliant, from the genius, from the successful creative mind who is driven to do anything that can be done because it can be done. There are certain words written by a professor of Columbia, which I have committed to memory, which is not easy for a man my age. And they are: have we the right to counteract irreversibly the evolutionary wisdom of millions of years to satisfy the ambition and curiosity of a few scientists? This world is given to us on loan. We come and we go. And after a while, we leave earth and water and air to those who come after us. My generation has been the first to engage under the leadership of the exact sciences in a destructive colonial war against nature. The future will curse us for it.
This completes the public hearing and the taking of testimony. This council will adjourn until 4 o'clock this afternoon, when we will meet in closed executive session to debate the ordinance and put it to a vote. Adjourned.
And so the City Council has recessed until this afternoon. This is Phoebe Dennison, Camera Eye News.
You did brilliantly, Baron, as becomes a seeker of wisdom and truth.
Evolutionary wisdom of 1 million years. That gave us cholera, cancer, bubonic plague, and hemophilia. Well, there's no way I'm going to be stopped by a flock of gutless sheep. And that's what makes me a scientist, Dr. Kashmir, and a good one. While you will never be anything more than a follower of the Fanny Farmer cookbook.
Come on, Leo, let's go.
You won't even be that. You're finished.
No, Henderson. Louise followed her conscience. You can't be vindictive because of professional differences.
Oh, there's nothing to do with it. Casimir, you're discharged for incompetence. You poured a culture down the drain.
You can't do that.
The hell I can't. When I'm through with you, there's not a research project in this whole field that will touch you with a 10-foot pole.
Doctor? I'm a 6-foot pole. And how would you like a punch in the mouth? Come on, let's go. Thanks, Leo. No. I'll tell her myself. Yeah. Right. Bye-bye.
Well, what happened?
Well, there was a lot of pressure from the university trustees and Scharf Dexter. And it seems it's difficult when the experts disagree. Half the council was voting for the wrong reasons. Max Fuseli has this big plumbing contract with Scharf Dexter. The swing vote was Irene Forster Dodd. She's still mad at the university because Dobie came out for abortion.
What does that have to do with this?
They didn't ask, they just counted her vote.
Yeah, so what was the result?
A kind of a compromise. They voted a 3-month ban on the experiments pending safety studies. Henderson said he could live with 3 months.
Well, that's a victory, isn't it?
In 3 months, Henderson will be free to play dice with evolution. And we all face the probability of a disaster.
Hell of it is. He was right.
Who?
Henderson. No, I mean about me. I always knew I couldn't be the kind of scientist he was. Innovative, truly creative. So I settled for sleeping with him, as if in some fool, infantile way I could incorporate him.
You said he was brilliant.
Why didn't you ask me when it was?
There wasn't much I could do about it, except be witty and urbane. And jealous.
Are you going to ask me? Go ahead, Pete. Ask me when, please. It was 10 years ago at Columbia. 10 years ago. You thought it was now. Now, why didn't you ask me when?
I guess I didn't want to know.
Yeah, right.
I don't have the scientist's soul. There are a lot of things I don't want to know.
God, you drive me crazy. Do you know, the other night you got me so mad that I almost slept with him. But he went to the John and I changed my mind. I mean, there I was, still a groupie, just a part of another experiment. So oh, no. Is that why I testified against him? I was hurt, so I made my noble speech about integrity and the responsibility of scientists. Oh, that's a great motivation. That's terrific.
Actually, I've made a very close study of noble motivations, and I have found that very few of them will tolerate close inspection.
I don't know. It seems kind of meaningless.
What isn't?
Thanks. Oh, the triviality of it. I blow my whole career. And for what? For what? I don't even have the consolation of thinking I was motivated by integrity.
It's like falling in love. The reasons are usually neurotic, infantile, selfish. But it's still a good thing to do. No matter how irrational or bizarre the original motivation, you get to know it was the right thing to do.
Are you?
What?
The one you chose for neurotic and selfish reasons. Are you still in love with that person?
Well,
One might say.
If you say some brittle Oscar Wilde remark, Pete, I will spit in your eye. Please, just say something straight out, please. I need your help right now, okay? Just say something dumb.
Well, yeah. I guess I am. Is that dumb enough?
Yeah. It's pretty dumb. How can you make a joke right now? This could be the end of everything.
That's what jokes are for. You can't go around thinking about the apocalypse all the time. You'll go crazy.
You know, you're right.
Thank you.
That is a very profound philosophical truth. When faced with the end of the world, what one thinks about is, what's for dinner?
There's leftover spaghetti.
Oh, let's see, what goes with the end of the world? Red wine or white wine?
Red. We'll put lots of garlic in the spaghetti. It works with vampires. It might keep Henderson's monster away.
Let's think about Henderson some other time.
This isn't the way to the kitchen.